tools, technology, innovation have a chance to impact the way we do our work. But I think there will always be a need for a human touch, a human perspective, um, a human soundboard. And so I like to embrace the innovation that I see. I explore it. I try and read up about the different changes that are happening in my industry so I can know the pros and cons. I often
Yeah.
test the tools that I read about so that I know if I would recommend them for my clients to use or not.
Yeah.
And I think it pushes us forward to know about them. So I say yes to innovation and yes to exploring it and not being scared of it.
Welcome to Mastering the Numbers. I'm your host, Joe Mallo. Welcome back for another episode. I'm really excited to talk to our guest today, Annette Garsteck with Annette Garsteck Career Coaching. Annette, thanks for taking part in my interview series.
Oh, I'm so happy to, Joe. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. For the crowd, or the listeners, I should say, if you can do them a favor, tell them a little bit more about Annette Garsteck Career Coaching.
Sure. So my career coaching practice is focused on those people that are looking to reinvent themselves professionally. And that could mean that they're looking to make a transition or a career pivot, or it could be somebody that's ready to take charge of their own career and own it and make sure that they're building great habits to make sure that they always do their best in their performance reviews or continue to build their network and aren't scrambling if and when it's time for them to make a transition and reinvent themselves.
That makes sense. So would you work with individuals if they were looking to, let's say, leave the corporate world and move into, an entrepreneur type position?
This is a good question, Joe. And this comes up quite frequently
Yeah.
because people find that leap a little bit scary, where they're
Yeah.
looking to leave the safety or security or perceived safety and security of their 9 to 5 and go to an entrepreneurship role. Often I help people evaluate if that's what they really want and then help them make a plan to go ahead and go after it if they're truly, truly into that. Um, Lots of people are scared and they haven't overcome the fear quite yet. Or they find, okay, I'm ready and I'm going to do it. And then I often
Yeah.
connect them with other resources and partners so that they can work on their messaging, their website design, whatever it is they need to make that break and start their
Yeah.
own business.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people out there that really want to start their own business, but they just can't, get over the hump.
Yeah.
They're truly scared. And there's some people that dive in, like myself, and maybe 2.5 years later, we're still a little scared.
I think the fear never really goes away. There's always something new you're trying as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
or always some dream that you think up, and you just have to do it scared. You have to try it
Yeah.
anyways because you'll never know one, what you'll accomplish, or two, what you'll learn about yourself along the way as you're failing, as long as you're learning the lessons from those failures.
Yeah. I think you have to fail and you have to be scared a little bit to truly be successful. Something has to motivate you besides the normal things. So
Yes, I
that's
agree.
maybe that's just my brain. I don't know. So, well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I think that we often are told, especially women in corporate
Yeah.
America, women in general are focused on being perfect or being polished or being well presented. And it's this new lesson that I've had to learn over the past few years that failing is okay. Um,
Yeah.
and that it's a learning process. It's really not failure, right? Maybe something goes
Yeah.
wrong. Maybe it isn't as you planned it to be, but it's not a true failure, I think, until you stop trying.
Yeah. Yeah. So, somebody brought that up to me. I think it was on one of my podcasts. I just can't remember which one. They said that perfect is one of the things that stops success.
Mhm.
A
Yes.
lot of a lot of people want to be absolutely perfect before they do anything, and that's not how it works. I mean, it can work that way, but it's going to take you 10 times longer.
Yeah, I've heard of perfectionism as a procrastination method,
Yeah.
and that seems to resonate for me.
Yeah, I like that. So what prompted you to start your own business?
this is kind of a funny story. So I had worked in corporate America for a long time, almost 20 years, and I had a really great leader, somebody that I respected, trusted, and her boss was replaced. And that person, you don't think that your skip level manager or leader has a big impact on you, but they really do. They set the whole tone or reset the whole tone for the business division that I was in. And this person's style was not aligned with mine. And it created this really big sense of chaos. And I just thought, I'm out. But I didn't know what I wanted to do next. So I opted out. There's one of those fail forward kind of situations. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I was in the process of finishing my MBA. So I knew at least I had one semester left and maybe I could focus on my capstone class with all of my attention and not have it splintered. So I went with that process and it gave me time to really think about what was next for me. What did I want? What was aligned for me. And then about 2 years later was when my husband said to me, "You should write resumes." And I'm like, "Oh, you're so funny. Nobody pays anybody to do their resume." And he said, "Well, maybe I think you're wrong, but you should probably investigate it for yourself." And once I had that idea, that seed planted, I was like, okay, I'm going to investigate this and see what's possible. And so I decided to use my leadership and mentoring skills that I had used all throughout my corporate career, leading teams, leading projects, leading divisions and new goals, and see if I could mentor people outside of their workplace, but help them get similar results. And that led to me opening my coaching business in late 2019. And then I found the certification process that I went through in mid 2021. And that's when I got credentialed as an International Association of Career Coaches, senior professional career coach.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What have been some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome since 2019?
Besides the obvious, the whole thing that all of us went through as a collective in
Yeah,
2020 through like 2023.
we
The
won't
biggest
say it.
challenge,
We won't say the
yeah,
name.
we won't say it. It's fine. We don't have to talk about it anymore, but everything felt different since then.
Yeah,
But I think the biggest challenges I had to go through was figuring out who I was without a formal job title. It's
yeah,
so ingrained into who we are, what we do, what our job title is. So having the freedom to create that for myself was really interesting, but it really kept me in this cycle of like, who am I now? And
yeah,
until I figured that out, that I was the same person, the same leader, the same passionate thinker, just on my own terms. And
right,
that was really freeing. So once I figured that out, whew, it was great, but it was a challenge, probably for about 18 to 24 months.
right.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you overcame that. Well, and so that kind of leads into in the growth of your business. Is there anything that you would have done differently in
Mm.
growing it? Not a
That's,
different, not a different career, but just you know, just anything differently in the growth.
yeah, a different path, maybe.
Yeah,
I
different path.
guess what I wish I had known is that you have to do it to figure out how you want to do it. And I don't know if that makes sense. So I'll try and explain. I
Yeah,
initially had this thought process of how it would all work, and I had a timeline, and my certifications had a big recommendation for how I could run my practice. And then once I started doing it and things weren't exactly going as I was trained, I didn't know that would be such a learning curve. And then once I figured out, oh, this is telling me how I should be running things for myself, knowing how my clients like to work, knowing my preferences, knowing that, for example, Joe, during the career transition process, people often get hung up on their resume and their LinkedIn profile. A little bit of overthinking, but a little bit of like reframing how they understand the process to work. And when other coaches had said, "Oh, I get through that process in like 18, sorry, excuse me, like maybe 10 or 15 days," and it was taking my clients a little bit longer. I just had to understand that was part of their journey and my journey together, and
Yeah.
that it wasn't doing it wrong.
Right.
It was just a change. And I had a lot of people that helped me learn that lesson. And so now I extend that portion of working with my clients to give them the time and space to do a little more exploration and understand what we're trying to do with those important documents so
Yeah.
that they can get the kind of role that they're looking for.
Yeah. Everybody does things in different increments.
Yeah.
You have to. It takes as long as it takes for it to get completed per person. And that's why I
Mhm.
look at it. And everybody's different. So, we talked previously before
Yeah.
this podcast. We talked about work-life balance and of some nature. How do you find balance between, whatever balance means to you, between work and your personal life?
I'm so lucky that I get to work at home and continue to work
Yeah,
from home. So I feel balance is a little easier for me than maybe somebody
yeah,
that's going into the office. Um, Balance also equates heavily to boundaries for me. So blocking off my calendar, knowing that I'm going to work on XYZ during this time and not work on it that time, closing my office door, closing the laptop, and then deciding if I'm feeling unbalanced that it's okay to
yeah,
take a break. But again, this was a process because I had worked for somebody else for so many years. Figuring that out was
yeah.
not always comfortable. And sometimes I find myself even still pushing, pushing, pushing. So I try and find some balance by setting boundaries and time limitations for myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think calendar blocking and things of that nature always help. Um,
Hmm.
but my office door has windows in it, and the way I helped was I found this little door hanger that when it's on red, it says do not enter. In green, it says enter. So I put it on red when I don't want to be bothered. And it's the first thing my family looks at. Is it on red or is it on green?
That's
So
amazing. What a good idea. Yeah, my door obviously means nothing in my house, so I might get your red and green sign and figure it out.
just go on Amazon. They're on there. So
Perfect.
you get two for a couple dollars. It's pretty easy.
Nice.
So working at home is your main support team at home, or do you have people outside of your home that are more of a support team for you?
So I have great support here in my home. Obviously, my husband is a great supporter of my work. My dog loves to support me. And then I work externally with a social media manager, and she works at her home. So we're remote. And
Yeah,
we connect over a remote texting or a chat app. And then we meet every couple weeks to make sure that we're on the same page. And that's my main support system. Everything else is done, as they say, in-house.
do you find it critical, and do you relay it to your clients as well? How critical it is to have a support team to keep you motivated, to keep you moving forward.
Whether we recognize it or not, we have a support team, right?
Yeah,
And I believe that your support team can either lift you up or drag you down. So when I'm working with clients and we're talking about their career, their profession, their livelihood, um, often that comes up in conversation and understanding who the people are that lift you up
yeah,
and getting more exposure to them and leaving behind the people that are dragging you down is
yeah.
such a big portion of career coaching. So, yes, we talk about it often and it comes up again and again
Yeah.
because relationships are the most important things. So, how can you understand what those relationships are and how they might be impacting you. And then also continuing to expand your network, right?
Yeah.
Growing your circle, continuing to meet new people, infusing new ideas and perspectives into what you do so that you're always growing and developing and not staying stuck in one place.
Yeah. Even if I always thought, even if you don't have somebody lifting you up,
Mm,
it's so important that you make sure that you don't have anybody dragging you down. You
yes.
don't, you can't, you don't have to have both people lifting you up and nobody lift, as long as you don't have people dragging you down, I think you're better off. You have
Hmm.
to move, yeah, you have to move away from them.
You do. You have to set some terribly strong boundaries with the people that drag you down. And sometimes it's not always possible at work um, to not work with certain people. Sometimes you don't have a choice. They're your boss, they're your colleague, they're your clients. So how can you make sure that you choose better next time? Or how can you put some safe distance and contact rules in place so
Yeah.
that the drain and the drag is less?
Yeah. I like that. Uh, to go a completely different direction,
Yeah.
is innovation a big part of your industry?
I think innovation is all around the coaching industry in general. AI continues to impact the coaching industry. And I don't know if you hear this in your business, Joe, but some concern from other coaches, oh, is AI going to take our job? And I think that tools, technology, innovation have a chance to impact the way we do our work. But I think there will always be a need for a human touch, a human perspective, um, a human soundboard. And so I like to embrace the innovation that I see. I explore it. I try and read up about the different changes that are happening in my industry so I can know the pros and cons. I often
Yeah.
test the tools that I read about so that I know if I would recommend them for my clients to use or not.
Yeah.
And I think it pushes us forward to know about them. So I say yes to innovation and yes to exploring it and not being scared of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think you can be scared of innovation and even AI. I use it. There's
Mhm.
times when I need to write things and it helps me, get my words straight and things of that nature. But a
Yeah,
personal touch is, when it comes to coaching or consulting, personal touch is important. So
agreed.
at least I feel that. So with the changes and innovation, everything that's going on, how do you stay ahead of the competition, or should I say, how do you differentiate yourself from others that might do something similar to you?
Mm. There's a lot of people that do things similar to what I do. So I try and talk when I'm marketing or when I'm focused on the people that might need someone like me. I try and talk about the specific challenges my clients or future clients might be experiencing. I try and share stories of what previous clients have gone to when it pertains to a current or existing client.
Yeah,
Um, so again, bringing it back to that human touch and really invoking what they're going through, understanding it, and then sharing how I've had this experience or that experience to help them through.
yeah, I like that. So, what do you find the most challenging? Uh, what's the most challenging part of your industry, I should say?
Mm. I think the most challenging part of working in the career focused industry is this ebb and flow that we're seeing in the job market. Last year was especially challenging for people. And the job market is also challenging. So I know that you have a finance history, and I'm not a great finance person, but I understand that, for example, unemployment and the unemployment reports, the tools, the indices that we have
Yeah,
that tell us what's going on in the marketplace are not actually a true picture of what's happening
right,
in the marketplace, right? It's just a small little snapshot. So, for example, the unemployment reports or the job reports talk about unemployment from the perspective of unemployment claims.
right,
And I don't think that's a necessarily robust indicator
right.
of people that are looking for work. You may be looking for work, you may have applied for unemployment and you may be denied. Therefore, it doesn't count you. And so
Right.
when we look at those things, I think it's important to remember that those are tools and not the whole picture. And then to really listen to the anecdotal stories that people are telling about their experiences. And once you hear multiple different stories confirming the same thing, then you can assume that is what's really happening in the market and then help people adjust with how they're preparing for their job search. Help them prepare for techniques that help them stand out from everybody else that's going
Yeah.
on LinkedIn, for example, and hitting the easy apply button.
Yeah.
And then that is the things that will help my clients, your clients, anybody looking for work or looking for career development to stand out from the crowd.
Yeah, I agree. You know, if you spend time talking to people that are out there
Yeah.
looking for new jobs or better jobs or a second job, whatever it might be, I
Hmm.
think you get better information, more pertinent information, because a lot of the data that we hear on TV, it doesn't have all the factors built into it. Just like you said, it's just the people that are filing for claims. It's not the other 15% that gave up, you know,
Right.
or they didn't get the claim. So I agree. I think that's a good perspective. So, um, so where do you see your business in the next 12 to, let's say, 36 months?
That's a long time frame.
That's
The
long.
next 12 months, I hope to reach more people that are interested in working on their career development and working on bettering themselves in their current careers. Um, I still love the career change. It's such a big transformation and people are so excited about it. Um, but that's only this very small portion of our whole professional lives when we change a career. The rest of the time is in the career we've chosen. So how do we make sure that people are making the most of it? They're tracking their successes. They're being sure they understand what's going on around them. They're continuing to network and grow their circle of influence. That's
Yeah,
my focus this next 12 months or so to reach those people and help them. I think it's the underserved portion of career
yeah,
coaching, and I think it will really help people be happier in the jobs
yeah.
they've chosen.
Yeah, you know, I think there's always times when people need to leave their current company, whether it's for the growth of themselves or growth of their career. But I think there's a lot of times people leave organizations, and if they just spent more time working on what they were doing while they're currently there, like you said, bettering themselves in their current job, they might not have ever had to look for another job.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I agree. I would like to see you work more in that area. I think that'd be great. Um,
Wonderful.
so so last couple questions.
Sure.
What's the best business advice you've ever received from anybody?
Mm. The best business advice I've received is from one of my business coaches. And the advice is, why don't you test it and see what happens? And I think it goes back to what we were first talking about, waiting for it to be perfect, waiting for it to be or match the idea I have in my head instead of just testing it and see how it goes. Such a freeing set of business advice.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people should listen to that. Just throw it out there. Just throw it out there. Won't take much time. So,
Yeah.
final question. Let's say you're talking to someone and they want to start their own business, but they're like we were talking about earlier, they just can't make the leap. What kind of
Mhm.
advice would you give them?
Mm. Interesting. Not everybody has to make the full leap. So maybe you do want to open a business, but maybe your dreams and desires are focused like on something you do at, for example, craft fairs. Do you
Yeah,
have to leave your 9 to 5 to be immersed in a craft fair business? Or is that something that you could integrate and do as a
yeah,
side role? Um,
right.
could you test it? Could you open a online store only and do it from the privacy of your home? Maybe it's just changing that vision you have and starting somewhere and then growing from there and seeing what is possible for you, redefining what you imagine success to look like.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great advice as well, because I mean, for example, I know a couple of firemen, and
Mhm.
they're not always at the firehouse. They have days off and days on, and I know too that they've started other businesses. So on their days off, they work that business, and then the days that they can't work the business, they're at the firehouse. And their goal is down the road, once they retire from the fire department, that their business will be up and running and they'll be 100%, you know, business owners. So yeah, I agree. You can take those steps to test it out, like you said, test it and see if it works. In
Test
that
it
in that
out and
type
see
of
what
situation.
happens. Yeah,
Yeah,
what's the
exactly.
best thing that could happen? That's the question. What's the best thing that could
Yeah,
happen? Hmm.
yeah, exactly. So listen, I really appreciate you taking part in my interview series. If for anybody out there listening, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Oh, the best way to get in touch with me is over email. And my email is Annette at AnnetteGarsteck.com. You can also go right to my website, which is AnnetteGarsteck.com, fill out my contact form, and it'll put you right in my email inbox.
Great, perfect. All right, Annette, once again, thank you very much for taking part. And for everybody out there listening, thank you for listening to another episode. And we'll catch you next week on the next episode of Mastering the Numbers. Take care, everybody. Take care, Annette.
Thanks, Joe.
You've just tuned into another episode of Mastering the Numbers. We hope you found valuable insight to boost your financial success. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Keep pushing forward, and thanks for listening.